planning to have a St. Patrick's Day party, the natural thing to want to do is just make a little green beer. But did you know there's a lot more things you can do to have a great Irish party? Brian Frank from Happy Harry's joins me to tell me a little bit more about Irish entertaining. And thanks to Redford's for hosting our little Irish party here today. First of all, Bailey's, I think, is something that a lot of us know as sort of an after dinner drink, but very classic Irish, right?
Yeah, Bailey's has been a staple for years. Originally, they started out with just the one flavor, the original Bailey's Irish Cream, the one that everybody knows about. Now they have a chocolate, a caramel, a mocha. And one of the fun things to do with the mint chocolate is it's 2 ounces of the mint chocolate with a ½ ounce of vanilla vodka. Shake it up, put it in a martini glass, and you have a shamrock martini.
Oh, okay.
Very, very popular. And Bailey's has been around a long time and people know it.
Right.
Just a really, really nice Irish cream. Now, if you're on a little bit more of a budget and you want something less expensive than Bailey's, go for Mary's Irish Cream. Great, great Irish cream for about a third of the cost of Bailey's.
Really? Okay. And something too that I think a lot of people don't know with Bailey's, once you open it, you do need to refrigerate it, right? This is not like a lot of alcohol that you can just store up in your cabinet. This needs to be refrigerated.
It doesn't necessarily need to be refrigerated, but it will last longer refrigerated.
Okay.
Once opened, you have about 6 months shelf life, but you'll extend that shelf life by putting it in the refrigerator.
See, I'm so glad that you informed me because I've been refrigerating and we end up actually pouring it out because we just don't get to using it all. So, okay. Let's talk a little bit about Irish whiskey because I have to admit I'm not much of a whiskey drinker and I don't know the difference between Irish whiskey and Scotch, bourbon, all that. So yeah, Irish whiskey, what is it?
It's kind of confusing. A lot of people come in and say, what's the difference between a Scotch and an Irish whiskey? The main difference is Scotch is smokier and a heavier style than an Irish whiskey for the reason of the malted barley is roasted over peat. And peat imparts that smoky, aggressive, some people call it almost oily flavor on their tongue. And Irish whiskeys are not done that way. The malt is roasted in a sealed oven, so you don't have that peat flavor imparting into it. And Irish whiskeys are distilled, triple distilled, and filtered 3 times. So it's a lot smoother and lighter than traditional Scotch.
Okay, so if you can do Irish whiskey just on the rocks.
Yeah, you can do Irish whiskey on the rocks. A lot of people will mix it with ginger ale. Some people will even mix it with a little bit of Coke, Sprite, cranberry juice. It's just a lot lighter and cleaner than your traditional scotches.
Now, in terms of these brands, Bushmills, Jameson, Tullamore Dew, pretty much the same price point? Or?
Yeah, similar price points, and I grabbed 3 of the basic staples of Irish whiskeys. A lot of people know Bushmills, Jameson, Tullamore Dew, and they're just that basic Irish whiskey. It's kind of a good stepping stone. If you don't like these, you probably won't like Irish whiskey, but if you fall in love with these, you can move up on the spectrum into like Redbreast, which is a single pot still Irish whiskey. When they say single pot, it's an older style of distilling the whiskey. It's smaller scale, thus the price goes up. A lot of these other Irish whiskeys do a column still and continuous still, where they're mass producing a little bit more. A single pot still is exactly what it is. It's a smaller style pot done on a very smaller scale. So this will be a little bit heavier and more aggressive than your traditional Irish whiskeys. Okay,
well let's talk a little bit about beer because I think when you say Irish beer, Guinness is sort of synonymous with that. So, but I also think really heavy. Is Irish beer always really heavy?
Not necessarily. Guinness has kind of a spectrum from light to heavy now. And when people talk about the heavy Guinness, they're mainly referring to the Guinness Extra Stout. But in the last few years, they've come out with Guinness Draft, which is real light, easy drinking, almost like chocolate milk. And then within the last 6 months, they came out with Guinness Black Lager. Now, Black Lager, that's going to be a real nice, darker style lager, but don't be fooled by the color of the beer. A lot of times people think of the darker the color, the more bitter and harsh it's going to be. That's not the case with Guinness. Until you move up into the Extra Stout, the Foreign Stout. Now, these are going to be your fuller-bodied, more hoppy style dark beers, what you're thinking about. But if you're out at the bar, if they have it on draft, and that's what this draft bottle here is emulating, is the draft system that they have on tap. It's real smooth and chocolatey, almost like chocolate milk.
Okay. Now, what about these other brands, Smithwick and Harp?
Smithwick and Harp. Smithwick has been around for a very long time, one of the oldest breweries in Ireland. That is similar to a red ale, or real creamy, robust, reddish in color, real nice and easy drinking. And then you have traditional Harp Lager. When you think about having your beer after mowing the grass or you're out on the deck, that easy, simple drinking lager is Harp Lager. And one of the fun things to do too with Guinness is making a half and half, or you hear about black and tans.
Yeah,
black and tan is Guinness and Bass Ale. Half and half is Harp and Guinness. And a lot of people do too is called a snake bite. They take your woodchuck cider and mix that half and half with Guinness.
Okay. And you're obviously, Brian has a lot of recipes. Instead of us just talking about them, we'll go ahead and put the recipes for all these Irish drinks right on this website. But before we go, we do have to talk about green beer, because that's sort of the American interpretation of St. Patrick's Day. What do you do to make green beer?
It's a mystery, but not so much a mystery.
Okay.
Like I told Tracy earlier, up in the cupboard next to your sprinkles that you put on your cookies for Valentine's Day, or in this case, St. Patrick's Day, you'll see a little bit of green food dye. That's all it is.
That's it. And then, so
Green
you
food dye.
just have a glass and just a couple
Put
drops?
put a couple drops in. In fact, our wholesalers love this time of year because at the wholesaler, they're actually injecting the kegs that are served to the bars and restaurants such as Redford's with green dye. And they're just covered with the green dye for a few days
All
afterwards.
for St. Patrick's Day fun.
All for St.
All
Patrick's
right.
Day.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thank
and
you.
again, we'll have all these St. Patrick's Day recipes right on this blog. For The Great Indoors, I'm Tracy Briggs.